Here's Grant setting up our one GoPro to film me coming home from my last day at my day job. We officially ended our day jobs and are now planning to set sail this month. What we didn't plan is for the roses to knock over from the dogs running around on the deck.
Oh, babe!
That just spilled because of all...
Oh, it's just so
It's been sitting here for hours.
Celebrating milestones in what feels a bit like a construction zone at times has its challenges, but what may seem like a small gesture are huge changes in morale, and this one made me feel pretty special.
Oh, they're so pretty. Thanks. Oh, they're so light.
Well, there's no water in there because it fell over.
Oh my god, it looks so nice in here. What is that? You're filming?
I was trying to film it.
Oh.
Then...
Aww. So sweet. Thank you. No more office attire.
So she noted.
Aw. Thanks, babe. Where's the champagne? Just kidding.
In the spring of 2022, we bought a 1980 downeaster cutter that was neglected for a decade. We sailed her up north to her new home port on the central coast of California, did a major haul out, and prepped her for blue water cruising. This life is completely new to us, but the dream is far from it, and finally we see it within reach. For the first time ever, we've moved on to Mundial and are continuing to ready her before we set sail. Thanks for joining us as we acquire our sea legs and say goodbye to land life.
It's my first day being fun employed for now, and I'm gonna go up the mast. Okay, time to get Grant's harness on me. I think this will be my first time going up the mast in, no, I went up once in Long Beach.
To the very top?
Yeah, for real.
You gotta pull that one side of the strap out.
I'm getting tired.
Sitting in an office every day has not been the best training for boat work. Today was my first day on the new job and my boss was sending me up the mast.
And then you're gonna measure from where it's taped, from the top of that pin, to somewhere on the spreader. Because we're gonna have to do this in 2 steps, because the tape measure is not long enough, and it's also because from here to here is a straight line, and from there to the deck is a straight line.
Somewhere on the spreader, like right here, I just need these measurements and these measurements.
Well, and then you're gonna
And then
go
we're
hold
gonna
the
do
tape measure
these
out here.
at the way down. All right, let's do it.
I was excited to see what Grant's been doing the last couple months, but also nervous. I used to rock climb a lot, but with my day job and Mundial, there was little time left for extracurricular like rock climbing.
Just, it's easier to nurse the eddy after you've reset your foot. She's going.
Grant likes to use a fixed line ascension, which means 1-to-1. You climb a foot, you go a foot. There are no pulleys.
Cool, you made it 6 feet so far.
I don't know how I'm gonna feel at the top of this thing.
Well, it took a little longer than expected, but I finally made it to the top of the mast. Feeling proud, winded, and ready to take measurements.
Okay, ready? Wow. Okay. That was harder than I thought. Mostly because this gree, I free fall every inch when I try to use it. It just took a while to get the hang of it, but after I got this working, it was kind of nice. I could smoothly rappel. But yeah, I think I could do that again in a year. I don't know how many times you do that in one day, Grant, but I think I could only manage one. How many times do you do that in one day?
I've been up and down the mast 5 or 6 times in one day.
You're crazy.
While I took a break and ate breakfast, Grant took out our new Genoa. It just arrived in the mail and we were crossing our fingers that she fit.
He says he really hopes his measurements are right. How are we looking? Whew.
Attaching the tack.
Ooh.
But I think I'll make a Dyneema drop eventually.
Okay.
I think I accounted for that size strap. Okay, we gotta go up more. Hopefully we have the room at the head of the sail.
What do you think? Just got to Grant's parents' house and we're going to stretch out and measure what will be our upper shrouds. We already have the lower ones done. Grant did those a few weeks ago and we had to buy more Dyneema and it just got in the mail the other day, so we're gonna try to whip this out and get the shrouds set up. Or I think I'm gonna be splicing today and Grant's gonna be continuing to work on the wind vane.
Because whatever's left over, we're just gonna bury.
All right, we're gonna use all this for the upper shrouds, just cutting it in half so we can use on either side.
Correct. So you don't want to like open the weave until you're ready, because that makes it shorter. Yeah.
Tight.
Cut it in half.
Where was it? Right there? Got it.
So we're gonna go 5.5 feet. And you're gonna put tape so that the tape is on your side of 65. Got it?
We decided to go with Dyneema because of the strength, workability, and the fact that we could rig it ourselves. After these shrouds, all of Mundial will be Dyneema, except the headstay, which has the furler on it. It saves a lot of weight aloft as well, which will help with rolling and yawing.
I'm sore from climbing the mast.
So this is gonna go from the very lowest part of the shroud
Okay.
up as far as it goes.
All right.
We'll stretch it taut.
And then
We'll whip the end on so it stays. We'll whip the bottom so that it stays.
Do we whip it in place on the boat?
No.
We're gonna
When we
whip it.
stretch this tight with my truck,
Okay.
we'll measure
Got it.
and then what we'll do is from the opposing end, we'll measure down whatever the measurement is.
Okay.
And the spreaders should be in the same spot on the shrouds. One of ours is just a little higher.
Yeah.
So we can just kind of pick the difference between the two, and
Right.
we'll put the center of this whipped on
Yeah.
there.
Sounds good.
You want to sit here?
Yeah.
I helped make the soft shackles that we used as hanks for the staysail, which allowed me to practice the Bremel splice quite a bit. So while Grant worked on the wind vane, I finished up the splicing, and he was nearby to answer any questions I had.
Oh, come on. Gosh darn. I think I was just getting it.
Am I using it?
Yes!
No.
This is the right way, right, Grant?
You just gotta invert this back now. Keep pulling until that rolls back on itself.
We were gifted a new to us wind vane from Garrett and Ruth on Red Aviva. The wind vane was missing some parts and wasn't yet rigged for Mundial, so Grant had his work cut out for him. He knew it needed all the nylon parts refurbished.
I'm trying to, I have to figure out the mesh of the teeth. You know what I mean?
Oh, those teeth, yeah.
Because
teeth right there.
Yeah. So see this rudder?
Yeah.
The holes are in line with the rudder.
Uh-huh.
These holes. This hole.
Yeah.
It's in line with the rudder.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's not like this. It's not perpendicular. So that goes into this hole. So this shaft that's inside of here goes to these teeth. And then so if these teeth and those teeth, if they're misaligned, that will be like when this is in
wonky.
The neutral position,
yeah,
that'll have the rudder turned to one side.
Grant ordered parts he needed for the wind vane, and the next day we were back at the folks' house working. He came upstairs to join me. I was splicing and working on the taper from the tail end of the berry, and Grant worked on the pennant for the tack of the jib, so the foot of the sail would clear the bow pulpit, rather than before when it was overly clearing the bow pulpit with the cable tenet that we had, which would make our new Genoa higher than it needed to be.
But you said we're supposed to end with 0. I'm ending with 1 right now. What?
How could you end with 0?
Fingers were already feeling raw, but at least we were laughing.
Alright. Now I just bury the rest of this thing? Finally finished the splicing, and now it's time to go stretch. I don't mean yoga stretch, I mean stretch the Dyneema. Dyneema. Good job.
It's really tight now. I mean, if I can exceed what it's gonna see, when we sail it in the beginning, it's probably gonna stretch out slowly, settle, and then it'll kind of hit like a stopping point, and then the only stretch it will see is the creep, which is over time.
Okay.
Creep is like super slow stretching. Basically, when it's loaded, it just slowly gets longer and longer and longer. But it has less creep. The lower percentage of the braking strength that you're actually pulling on it, the less creep it has. If that makes sense. This is adequately sized, I guess. So now we need to put this all the way down to the, like as low as we can get it. Hopefully we can get it all the way to the thimble, and then stretch it out, and then we'll whip it down at the thimble to hold it, and then we'll whip it at the top. And then this piece, we need to take our measurement from the top of the thimble there to where this is going to go through the spreaders.
Okay.
To prevent chafe, we put the chafe sleeve that came with the Dyneema on before we spliced the ends. However, after burying the ends, the soon-to-be shroud got thicker and wider and prevented the chafe sleeve from pulling over the rest of the shroud.
I was trying to look the other way because I knew that this was going to happen. As we go around, you...
So we whipped the chafe sleeve that we did have on the shroud in place. We thought about whipping the rest of the shroud, but instead we decided to try out the extra fire hose that Grant had lying around from when he was a firefighter. And stay tuned for next week's episode to see how that turns out.
Yeah, you want to do it?
Sure.
Okay, you gotta pull these through.
Ready? Put your finger right there.
I'm holding the end here.
Ow!
Just tie these together.
No.
Just tie them together. Overhand knot's fine. Now put your tool in there. Pull, 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 pull. Come on. I was just about to say, when it goes, it goes.
Dang it! Okay, here we have it. Okay, that took a little longer than expected, but we got the two shrouds ready and stretched out, and next step is installing them. We were about to put on the shrouds, but the weather has just changed and it is quite choppy and windy. We don't really want to go up the mast right at this moment, so we've decided to switch gears, and I'm going to keep prepping the cabin top ceiling here and cutting the bolts so they're not so long. Grant's trying to fix some plumbing issues we're having.
So that the pump cavitates if you don't run enough water all at once. And then with the pump cavitating, then it ends up that the pump just keeps cycling and cycling and cycling and cycling because it can't draw from the tank because there's air in the line ahead of it. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. That's why there's like air bubbles that come out, right? When I try to run the water.
Another reason.
Something last on our project list but suddenly made it to the top, other than the wind vane and shrouds, was replacing the cabin top vinyl. Living in what felt like a construction site wasn't good for morale, so we made the tough decision to spend the time and money to replace the vinyl. Vinyl wasn't our first option, but it was cheaper than wood. We also realized at the beginning of this project that we would need a compressor to install some of the staples that would hold the vinyl to the wood on the cabin top. So we had to do it before casting off since we weren't going to have access to a compressor anytime soon after. While I used the Dremel, careful not to scratch any windows, Grant worked on resolving our plumbing issues.
I think when I was putting this together, I was fearful that if you over tighten plastic, you could crack it pretty easy. What happens when you over tighten? Welcome.
No.
threaded it in too far, what ends up happening is
Is that wet glue? Like we gotta get it on quick?
No.
Okay.
What ends up happening is you screw a pipe into there. If you over tighten it, it's trying to expand this.
Okay, but you're pretty confident that that was causing our issues?
I mean, this one's for Jono. He's a fan, and I'm sure there's someone out there that will have a different opinion, but he's a fan of using Teflon tape and pipe dope. Some people will also tell you don't use PVC on a boat. You know, it is what it is. So the manifold that we made, or I made, was to allow for the pump from the aft tank, from the forward tank, to the water foot pump, and then incoming water from the water maker. So I needed basically a 5-branch system. So I used 3 T's and 2 90s, and then some little nipples, and 3 valves, as you've probably seen. 1 to shut off the foot pump, and then 1 to shut off each of the tanks. The manifold was leaking air, so we needed to reseal all the fittings. I pulled a little bit of a vacuum, as I'm sure you'll see from Noelle's footage, real crude with my tongue and plugging one of the holes and having all the valves shut, and the vacuum like gave up after maybe 30 seconds. So I knew that somewhere in the threads of the manifold there was an air leak. So putting it back together with not just Teflon tape but also pipe dope, thanks to Jono, that's his style. Some people probably won't like that. But when I was screwing it together, one of the downsides of plastic fittings is you can over tighten them, over expand them, and they will split. So
Bummer.
It's not a big deal, it's not an expensive part, it's just a trip to the hardware store, and I don't have any of these fittings.
And it's like 20 knots of wind right now, and dinghy ride's not sounding too nice, but
We're going to shore anyways.
those are the things we gotta do. Wow, you got a small head.
I have a small head.
You have a big head. Yes. Dude, this doesn't even fit. On. The pirate life. It's a pirate life for me. Regan and Grant are out there, kind of fixing the rigging, making sure it's nice and balanced, and we're just having so much fun. I think we're averaging like 6 knots.
It stopped taking a charge, but all the
Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe and hit the thumbs up button if you like our videos, and the notification bell so you know when our next videos post. See you next
It's the
week.
first time for everything. Hey, no cussing. Filming for our YouTube channel. Your fingers are so close to that really sharp knife.
They've been this close the whole time.
Scares me.
You couldn't have said something at the beginning? What's your favorite letter in the alphabet?
No.
It's not a letter. Is it R? So dumb.
No, it's not R. I have a love for the sea.
Oh my god. Wow, that's